This is TechVibe Radio, your front row seat to Pittsburgh's technology and innovation ecosystem. TechVibe is brought to you by Compunetics at Compunetics.com, Chorus Call at ChorusCall.com, Highmark at Highmark.com, Huntington Bank at Huntington.com, Kindling at TheKindlingAgency.com, PNC Bank at PNC.com, and Savier at Savier.com. Here are your hosts, Audrey Russo and Jonathan Kirsting of the Pittsburgh Technology Council, coming at you from the Huntington Bank Studios.
Good morning. So glad you're joining us here for TechVibe Radio. It's your front row seat to all Pittsburgh's technology and innovation. And I'm Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And I just look so forward to doing these shows each and every week because I just feel like I'm your tour guide out there showing you stuff you may not know about that's happening in Pittsburgh, but it's happening here, and we're here to put a spotlight on it. If you're a regular listener of TechVibe Radio, you know how Audrey, my usual co-host, my boss, our CEO of the Tech Council, we always talk about how blessed Pittsburgh is because of its universities. That is some of our secret sauce here in Pittsburgh and our tech industry has been around our universities. And just by themselves, they do incredible work. But when they come together and work on projects, it's like magic. And we're going to be exploring some of that magic here today. So you're probably saying, Jonathan, what kind of magic are you talking about? Let me tell you about something here. So we have with us in the house from CMU and the University of Pittsburgh, hanging out with us. First, we have John Kitchin from Carnegie Mellon University and Paul Leu. And I'm going to have you guys actually explain it before we jump in it, but so our listeners know that there's some great research that goes on here. And when Pitt's working on something, CMU's working on something, like a Case Western's working on something, magical stuff, like I said, starts to happen. And it's all about the MDS Rely. So guys, welcome to the show today. I'm excited to jump into this because when I got the news release on this, I was like, another instance of Carnegie Mellon and Pitt jumping in. So let's start with intros. John, let's start with you. Give me your background, just a little bit what you do at CMU and everything like that.
Sure. My name's John Kitchin. I'm a chemical engineering professor at Carnegie Mellon. I've been there since 2006. We've done a lot of work in understanding chemical reactions on surfaces, how to design the surfaces to have those reactions, and more recently on using data science and machine learning to solve problems in material science.
Oh, that's like bringing other areas together when you bring in that to, that's very exciting. And then Paul at the University of Pittsburgh, my alma mater, just saying, I always like to say that. I'm very proud that I graduated from Pitt 30 years ago.
Yeah, hell Pitt. So I'm Paul Leu. I'm a professor of industrial engineering. I've been at Pitt since 2010. I do work, a lot of work with optoelectronics.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at how different ways to control light for a whole host of applications.
Yeah. See, I'm outgunned. I should just leave the studio right now. We're not going to get that technical. Let's be fine. But I just love hanging out with guys like you because you're working on some really tough problems. And so let's just jump off of just our listeners can understand about the MDS Rely and what its mission is, just so we can kind of level set here. And from there, we'll kind of build out and explore what's going on. Who wants to get the elevator pitch? Who's our best salesman right here?
I'll jump in.
Do it, John.
So MDS Rely is really focused on degradation and reliability of materials.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is you buy some paint, you want it to last a long time.
Yes.
And you want to make sure it goes on reliably and has properties like that. So we're interested in studying those kinds of problems, especially using a data science informed approach. Mm-hmm. And we like that approach because like a traditional basic science approach would be try to understand all the microscopic mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
of how paint flows and ages and changes. But that's really slow and takes a long time. And with a data science driven approach, we have a much faster way of using data to find out what controls the stability and properties of the paint, for example.
And when you run artificial intelligence along in with that, it can run different scenarios and samples way faster than if you're testing them out individually in a lab and so forth. So you can make advancements much quicker as far as that goes.
Yeah, basically with the old-fashioned, basic science approach, you have to be able to write down equations that describe all the properties.
Okay.
And if you don't know the equations, you can't write them down. And AI is a way of finding those equations from the data so that we can use them and make the understanding that we need.
So what I sense here as well is we're looking at two areas that Pittsburgh has tremendous strengths in. I mean, Pittsburgh is one of the leaders in AI. I mean, we've been working on this for 40, 50 years. And in materials, I mean, that's what built Pittsburgh. So much of our materials came from our steel mills and the research. I mean, that's why Carnegie Tech was founded, obviously, like back in the day. And so I'm seeing how we're taking some of these core technologies we've been working on, bringing them together and just exploding on that. Paul, tell me a little bit about how that works and how your research comes together to make some of that happen.
Yeah, so we're in, the center of the Rust Belt, so a lot of manufacturing has left the area. So by bringing AI to manufacturing of new materials, we think that's really the future and a nice way to build up the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're doing all sorts of exciting materials with polymers, things like coatings, new types of printed electronics, things like that. So, we're trying to revitalize the region and, apply these new methodologies that have been, developed really extensively for the internet, and applying them to manufacturing of materials.
100%. Now, originally, so Pitt was part of the Rely along with Case Western and so forth. And you guys have been, I think, entering your 5th year now on this. And it was just now we brought Carnegie Mellon University into this thing, which when I got that news, I'm like, oh, cool. Now I feel like all the pieces have kind of come together as far as that goes. Like, how big of a deal was it for Pitt to bring CMU into this? And then for CMU, how cool was it for you guys to be like joining in on this and really help just keep moving this thing forward?
Yeah, we're very excited to add John and Carl Laird and the CMU team on to MDS Rely. So yeah, we launched in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic, and been looking at ways to help grow the center, add more companies, add more sites. So, John brings a wealth of expertise in machine learning and materials to the center.
Excellent. And then, John, how excited for you to bring your expertise and marry it up with the work that Pitt's been doing?
Yeah, we're also super excited.
Yeah.
CMU has a quite historical role in the development of AI and machine learning going back to the 50s. And what Pitt and Case Western bring to us that is part of our collaboration is an equal depth in the materials and applications. And the two of them can't work without each other.
Right. They go hand in hand as far as that is. Very exciting stuff. I feel like your softball team just got some more players. Yeah. Like, you guys are going to be kicking some butt. It's just very exciting to me. So we're going to take a quick break because we got to pay the bills and run a couple of commercials, but we're going to really jump into some of the research that you guys are doing, some of the industry partners that you guys have as well too. We get really excited when we see the universities working with places like Eaton and so forth. That's where, once again, the magic starts amplifying. So like I said, having so much fun talking to you guys this morning. Can't wait to get back and start nerding out on more stuff. In case you just joined us, this is Jonathan Kirsten, the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and I am hanging out with Paul Leu and John Kitchin from the University of Pittsburgh and CMU, respectively. And we're right back after this quick break. And I almost forgot, go to pghtech.org to check out all the ways the Tech Council can help your tech company succeed. A strong work culture is the invisible force that binds employees to each other, to the company, and to their work. It's linked to better business outcomes, happier employees, and increased retention. How we work and where we work continue to evolve in almost every way, yet our human need for connection and purpose remains. Help your employees connect and thrive by evolving your culture to support your team, regardless of how or where they work. So discover how the Kindling Culture Agency can transform your company's culture at sparksomething.big.com. That's the Kindling Culture Agency at sparksomething.big.com.
Compunetics is the leading developer of unified voice, video, and data collaboration and conferencing applications for the service provider, government, and unique workflow applications. The Summit Olympus and Evergreen platforms, driven by their encrypted user interfaces, enable powerful and secure collaboration. Combined with world-class support and innovative professional services, Compunetics delivers the right solution every time. Learn more at Compunetics.com. Your dial is set to TechVibe Radio, brought to you by Compunetics, Chorus Call, Highmark, Huntington Bank, Kindling, PNC Bank, and Xavier. Here are your hosts, Audrey Russo and Jonathan Kirsting of the Pittsburgh Technology Council, coming at you from the Huntington Bank studios.
Welcome back. Thank you for listening to TechVibe Radio this morning. I love being part of your Sunday morning. Thanks for spending the time with us. I'm trying to guarantee you a good time, giving you, I keep saying it, that front row seat to Pittsburgh. As they started off the show, so many of us used to driving through Pittsburgh, through Oakland, and we see the university, we see the buildings, we know research is going on, but you're not really thinking about how cool this research is, how life-changing some of this research is. I get fired up about it because I'm always riding through Oakland. I'm like, yeah, I sleep better at night knowing our schools are here doing what they do. And if you just joined us, we are talking to Paul Leu of the University of Pittsburgh and John Kitchin from Carnegie Mellon University, talking about the MDS Rely, which I think, man, you guys are working on some cool stuff with material science, machine learning, and using all that together to make better materials. And I would love to just nerd out with you on some of the stuff that you guys are making. I mean, John, you mentioned earlier how like just using paint as an example, that you can make paint better. And I think about like PPG here and the coatings that they make and the stuff that they do. And I think it's so exciting to see how materials make our lives better, because materials are our life. They're everywhere, right? And so, yeah, where should we start on this, John? What do you think? What's a good way for us to jump into maybe some research that you guys have done, and maybe bring in some of your industry partners with that as well, too? Because I think we have some folks like Eaton, and of course, PPG. I mean, the coatings and stuff like that. I mean, with the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, for crying out loud, like, I think you guys might be legit.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with a project that I've been working on. We call it LitDB.
Okay.
And the overall idea is the scientific literature has about 1 million articles published a year. And if you're a company like PPG, you probably have decades of technical reports that you have in your history. And so new people have a hard time finding those reports, understanding what's in the reports, or managing what comes out every year in the scientific literature, let alone the last century of papers that are around. And so you've probably heard of something like ChatGPT.
I've heard
these
of it.
days.
Yes, it's a
Right.
thing, maybe. Yes.
So it turns out this is a great way to interact with these kinds of documents. So we can leverage the technology behind ChatGPT to help you find the most relevant technical reports, the most relevant scientific literature.
Okay.
And then once it finds those for you, it can extract information from them. You can ask questions of them. And so we've written software to kind of help automate this, to find new papers that come out, tell you when the new ones are relevant, and then be able to ask for like very specific questions. If I wanted to stabilize paint, what additives would I use? And then it can go back through the history of technical reports and find reports that are relevant.
And it probably does this in the matter of seconds, where if you were a researcher, you would spend weeks or more pouring through this stuff, right?
That's right. It does do it extremely quickly compared to what is required for you to read every single one and then decide and remember.
Right, exactly. See, this is where it gets so exciting when I see these technologies come and it's like, let's use a little ChatGPT to research this.
And it can find things that are relevant and related in other fields you probably wouldn't have read about. So
and you can, wow. So I can only imagine when it brings that back, it's like, I wasn't thinking about that area. And then that might open up a whole other set of prompts that just gets you digging deeper and finding different solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. You guys are having fun. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like to plug John's tool a little bit more.
Keep going, man.
Yeah, I mean, so our center, we're currently thinking about a phase 2, which is, after the first 5 years, going from phase 1 to the next 5 years. So I've used John's LitDB software tool to build up a database for our MDS Rely Center. So all the different faculty, different papers that we've published. And so I can do a search for certain keywords, and it'll find those papers
For sure.
within the center that are most relevant to certain topics. And the great thing about this, especially for companies, government labs, is you can work with large language models that are local, so it's not out on the web, and you can, in a safe and secure way.
Not pulling weird junk for like, wait a second, where did this come from?
Or sending your IP out for
Oh, that's a
protect your
great,
IP.
exactly right. Interesting.
Yeah, so you're not, having some other company looking at what you're searching on, what documents you're, training
Okay.
your LLMs on, or doing the searches on. So, yeah, it's a very useful tool, especially for companies and government labs.
I can imagine that as you're working with industry partners on this and you're bringing in this technology, they have to be so excited because this is just compounding the power of what you guys can do, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to help them bring these innovations to the marketplace. And what I get excited about, like a lot of these companies, like these materials, there's like life-saving implications on a lot of these types of things, or stuff that's great for the environment because they can make a paint better or something that reflects light differently. It just seems like the possibilities are endless, and how this stuff can really just improve the world around us.
Yeah. I mean, I think the great thing about our center is it's not just the universities, it's the companies, right?
Exactly.
It's companies, the government labs. So we're not just faculty and PhD students, sitting in our labs doing our own thing because we find it interesting. Our research is being driven by the needs of industry.
It gets into the marketplace.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important. That's why I think Pittsburgh has such a magic-like thing to it, because research is great, right? I mean, nerding out and learning stuff. But when you can get that out into the marketplace, get it to where it impacts people's lives and business, that's when it just becomes all the more powerful. And then, of course, it just inspires more research, right? Because you're just learning more as you see it in the marketplace. It kind of creates this cool little snowball effect, I think, a little bit, which is just really kind of interesting. So, fun stuff. Oh, my goodness. You guys get to have too much fun, right? You probably wake up saying, I can't wait to get to work and do more stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing. So with CMU now on board with the Rely, and you mentioned before, like going for the phase 2, because 5 years in, I'm feeling like a phase 2. Now I don't want to jinx this, but that seems like, how could you not get a phase 2 when you're working with some great partners like this? I think you've got some momentum going that's going to allow you guys really build this thing into the future.
Yeah. Well, what we're trying to do now is, figure out what are the key areas that companies that are part of the center right now and want to join the center within the next few years, what they want us to work on. So,
gotcha.
Using John's tool, by talking to a lot of these companies, talking to government labs, we're trying to identify, what our roadmap, what our next couple of years is going to look like.
I like it. Yeah. And obviously with you now just joining up, you got to be thinking about, some new ways you can really start doing what you do, and how you could be obviously additive, start taking things to new levels.
Yeah, there's a bunch of really interesting needs in the world right now.
Surely.
People want to remove some fluorinated compounds from products.
I've heard about that. Like drinking water.
If we can remove them from the products, they won't get into drinking water. But those materials have super special properties, and they're not easy to replace.
Okay.
And so it turns out to be, quite a challenge to identify replacements that are sustainable and don't cause other problems.
I see. Right.
So these are some of the things that we've talked about and interested in getting into Additive manufacturing is another one, especially if you can start to 3D print metals and make parts that aren't easy to make by other means.
Exactly.
All of those are super interesting, very challenging problems where it could be decades to learn the basic science behind them, and we want solutions, tomorrow.
With your tool and more minds coming to this, I see that accelerating.
Yeah.
And man, that gets me so excited. But the worst part of this thing is we're out of time. Oh my goodness. But thank you guys so much for stopping back in. So much fun hanging out with you. Just putting a little spotlight on some of the great work you may not know as you're riding your bicycle through Oakland. Like there's some great researchers like you guys doing what you do. So John and Paul, thank you for stopping by TechVibe today. Love having you in the Huntington Bank Studios.
Yeah, thanks a lot. People want to find out more information.
Tell us what. Yeah.
Our website is MDS-Rely.org.
Perfect. Check it out, everybody. And after you do that, go to pghtech.org. All right. And then after that, have an awesome rest of your Sunday, everybody. Once again, it's been Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council.
Thanks for geeking out with us on TechVibe Radio. Tune in next Sunday for more tech and innovation stories right here from Pittsburgh. TechVibe is brought to you by Compunetics at Compunetics.com, Chorus Call at ChorusCall.com, Highmark at Highmark.com, Huntington Bank at Huntington.com, Kindling at TheKindlingAgency.com, PNC Bank at PNC.com, and Savior at Savior.com. And we're always coming at you from the Huntington Bank Studios.